pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First on the agenda is the use of village property. I just want to go through these quickly. I don't think there'll be any issues because they are repeats from last year and renewals. So with one exception, oh no, not that one. Okay. So anyway, for the board's benefit, anyone have any questions about St. Mark's Great Lawn, the Paragon Art Show on May 24th, May 23rd, 24th? Any questions, issues? No. East End Little League. Admittedly, I did not contact Father Chris to see if he has any new objections. He's been very accepting of this in the past, so I assume he will be again. And then use the village property for the libraries, the Monday morning yoga at Rogers, Wednesday morning yoga at Rogers, Thursday evening yoga at Rogers, the Shakespeare play, which I think this is the third year that they've had that, with a rain date, Monday, Tuesday, rain date. And then the outdoor concert series, which everybody likes, again on Wednesdays, as it was. I guess this is the second or third year it's been on Wednesdays, I think. Any board member questions, problems, chief?
Just that we're going to have to come up with, and I guess the PD can do it, parking permits for the Rogers Beach. We ran into an issue last year where those folks were being ticketed because
No.
The permits that were being issued were done from the library, and our officers recognize that they're being from the library.
Okay.
So we may have to adjust this where maybe the PD issues maybe numbered permits, so we're able to keep track of who they go out to, or some kind of a
Maybe
system like that.
if we can contact the library, I'm sure they can give us a list of registrants, and then we give the library numbered permits. Would that work?
Yeah, something along that line. We can discuss it further. We just need to come up with. It was a big inconvenience for the folks who participating, getting tickets, and
Right.
then we had to go through.
We don't want to have. Right. I can call Danielle.
Okay. Yeah, Danielle's great to work with. So
Okay.
as long as we work something out that we don't run into the same problems last year.
Right. You don't want to repeat mistake.
Maybe unlike something to put in the window that they have.
That's what I'm gonna do, but it was generated by the library, so
Right.
and it didn't look official. So police weren't aware. There's a lack of communication, so we fixed the communication. Anything else on that? Anyone?
No, sir.
Nope. Okay, good. Special exception permit from Boomberger, 5 picnic tables. They didn't have violations. Any questions on that one?
No.
Okay. And then we had the other, what was,
Ivy on Main, yeah.
Ivy on Main.
He decided to go with
That's a
the
new
5.
one. Okay.
He decided to stay with Lydia last year instead.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Okay. So Ivy on Main is a renewal as well, no changes. Okay, good. So that keeps it simple. And we'll have resolutions on the next meeting to approve all of those. Okay, perfect. I'll see. Yep, I have my numbers on this one. That's all right. Perfect. Good. All right. This next one, Kim was at the meeting, Steve Angel was at the meeting with the Southampton Town attorneys and Aaron Virginian. And I want to just have this as an introductory. Unfortunately, 2 of our trustees are missing, but for the Board of Trustees to start considering a variety of options and thoughts and reasonable approaches to solve this obligation, I guess is the best way the IMA with the town, so that will obligate us to pay 15% in the future of, our portion of beach renourishment costs, which are forecast to amount to, maybe at 1.8 million per year.
Total.
But
For
4 years? Well, at one point it was 4 million in 4 years, okay. But anyway, this is, and again, this is a forecast. There are different ways of approaching this, payment of this obligation. One way is just to add it to the village taxes, and that way all village taxpayers share in the expense for beach renourishment. Another,
I should point out, though, that you gotta consider that the most valuable properties will pay the biggest share,
right, right.
even under that.
And another way that we have discussed before you authorized me to sign that agreement, was to establish another option for us, is to establish, beach erosion control district. And we could establish one or two. I think in the discussion yesterday, it was probably evolved to more likely be one, rather than the two. And there are different ways of establishing that the beach erosion control districts pays this obligation. One way is by assessed value of the property. It's a larger valuable, that's second page. Is that approach. And another one would be by linear foot of beachfront that they have. Theoretically, they're only gonna be responsible for the sand that they receive. So, and theoretically, this happens once every 4 years, where the Army Corps comes in and renourishes the beach. I guess if it's established that it doesn't need to be done, then it doesn't need to be done, and there's no cost. This also involves the possibility of, if there's an extreme, if it costs more than anticipated, we may have to bond it, to pay the cost. Because what happens, the Army Corps does the work, they bill the state bills the town bills us. So it's, the trickle down takes some time, for this to happen. And the town is responsible for their 15%. State is paying 50% and asking us to contribute 15. How am I doing?
So there's a few ways. So what you're looking at here is basically the Aaron had put together a potential project area. So this is only oceanside homes from 353 to 531. And that's generally where we're expecting to see this project. So he put this together as an estimate of what it would cost on an annual basis for those homeowners if we created an erosion control district that really just would, the district would be the homes that directly get benefited from the beach replenishment, and we'll see sand, potentially in their backyard. There is also an option, because you can see that these additional taxes would be on the higher side, that we can make the district larger. We could do all of the homes on the ocean side of Dune Road in the village, which would bring each home down in cost a little bit more, which might be more manageable for everybody. We could create an oceanfront and bayside control district, so there could be two where they get a different percentage, whoever is benefiting more pays more money. So there's still a lot of discussion that we need to have,
Yes. A lot of thought
how to do this.
in the most equitable way to do this, because obviously the entire community benefits by the fact that we have religious beaches.
Yes.
And that affects our economy greatly. That's what our economy is based on. But then there's the other aspect that these homes that are directly on the beach are deriving the most benefit because their property is constantly being protected by the Army Corps and the renourishment process. So there's a lot of different approaches that can be taken and a lot of justifications for those approaches. And we haven't decided on one yet, I guess, what the point is.
And the items in yellow are what the village owns, and we're actually exempt from having to pay into this project, but the mayor and I have spoken, I'll speak more about it too, is it's, I think it would be a nice thing for us to pay into it, since it is village property that our residents do use, so Rogers Beach, Lashley Beach, things like that, so it would be a contribution from people that are not on the direct water that would be contributing as well.
I think that's part of the justification partially for not just simply having all the taxpayers pay.
Right.
We'll pay our portion, taxpayers will pay our portion of what we own as a village. And then the private homeowners will pay the portion for their private beach renourishment. So,
If we pay our portion, wouldn't that be considered taxation on the people that are paying into it? Because they're paying
well,
village tax.
this is by assessed value.
Right, no, I'm saying for our properties.
Yeah,
So
we
we-
own the property, so we're responsible.
Right, but I'm saying we don't operate off our own physical money, it's taxpayer money.
Yeah.
I'm saying these people pay village tax, and then they pay this renourishment tax,
Mhm.
and then they're also gonna be paying a portion of this tax.
It's gonna go in the town
It's
taxes.
all, if the BECD comes out on the town tax bill as an assessment on the town taxes, then it will not be reflected in, if we go that direction, it's not a village tax.
Mhm.
Okay. Chris, we're just basically trying to get you up to speed, and when you talk to these guys, let them know.
Any questions? 'Cause
Any questions?
it's
No, I mean, this is kind of what we've been discussing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a question of, do we wanna make it, less of a burden, and kind of make it a longer erosion control district? Or do we wanna keep it to everyone, that's really going to be getting the sand? So,
Because I guess it comes down to the fact, admittedly, that where the jetties are, that probably will never need renourishment. So from essentially a little bit west of Lashley all the way to the western line of the village, that's where the renourishment is going to be needed. And part of the reason that they need renourishment is because back in the sixties and seventies, the Goins were put there. So, and then this project stopped through a series of lawsuits back then and things like that. So, part of the problem is created by the jetties, and yet at the same time, the jetties are protecting those properties very well. So,
there's
it
a
is,
lot of arguments to be made here.
yes.
Could you do it where there was like, this group of people paying half the bill, and then the other half is assessed throughout the entire village?
Yeah.
We can, yes, that's an option. We can do an 80-20 split or a 50-50 split. I mean, those kinds of things are also options.
The whole point with that though is that, you can't just walk onto the beach from someone's house. So, who's getting the benefit?
Correct.
So
I was just saying,
I mean, could you walk from, Lashley, could you walk on the, sure, but then you can't get off, you turn back around. So,
But we do have the village beach ones and.
Right.
Yes, so
So I see the cost for one of them is very low.
$500.
Yep.
So, because it's so small, so, yes, yeah. It's a lot to chew on, and I just wanted the board to be able to start chewing on it, thinking about it, talking about it, with each other individually, in groups of two.
I really just what makes the most sense, because once we establish it, that's what it is. So,
Yes.
we
This
can't
is a
change that.
30-year obligation. So whatever we start doing now is gonna last for 30 years.
No pressure.
Anthony Murray, the attorney, raised the issue. The special district, if the village goes that route, is subject to what's called a permissive referendum. So if a lot of people are pissed off at being hit, they can go and they can file a petition, and we would have the referendum on it before we go forward. So it's not only is there a equitable concern, you gotta think in terms of what the politics are involved too.
And we will have to go through public hearings for this anyway.
The public hearing, yeah, what it would we, if, the other issue is, do you wanna have informational meetings beforehand? And I think the recommendation was that if we do that, or public hearings or informational hearings, we should have a proposal out there for people to talk about, rather than just what we're doing today.
Yes, this is the introductory discussion. I think it would be best to have probably a combination of informational meeting and open the public hearing and keep the public hearing open for a series of meetings.
And then it would be after the public hearing, that if you passed a particular resolution, well, I don't know, because
Actually, the town has to do it.
there would be some delay, excuse me, before the permissive referendum.
Right, because the town is the one
Right.
setting this up, and we're requesting the setup,
Correct.
is the way it operates.
Right. The cost and the town attorney's office is in Ripon, they've had some experience doing this.
Any other questions, comments? You can talk to me on the phone too, Chris. Yeah, it's a lot to digest.
Some of the larger ones too, like, some of the larger annual cost ones are Sandpiper, Sandcastle, places that have more than, 10 or so units in there, so just keep that in mind as well. That's not just for one place. Yeah,
They're around.
oh, there you go. So that makes that easier.
Not to get too in the weeds, but on the first map, far left side, see that, those southwest boxes there, those are on the surf walk. If you go back to the first page, these ones that are listed as surf walk. If you go by the evaluation cost on page 2, a lot of those are gonna be nominal, nothing, because those are near properties that could never be built upon. They just happen to be owned by the owners of the property.
Right.
And if you did a frontage, if I owned one of those properties, I would stop paying my tax on that property and I would just go into, because I'm not gonna pay $8,000 a year or something for a stretch that I couldn't do anything with. So if it's, I'm not saying you should do one or the other, I'm just saying that if you were gonna do this, expect all of these surfboard properties to eventually be village issue.
Admittedly, the town is, prefers the assessed value approach. It's a lot easier for them, it makes more sense, that it includes, improvements. So, I guess they're asking us to lean towards the assessed value,
That's usually one.
yeah, if at all possible.
looks at is the financial burden on the property owners rational in effect? So is there a benefit that's being offered that's being offered to the homeowners, and is it equitably dispersed? I have no idea how they do that. That's one of their reviews. She made that point to us. That we can't be too arbitrary because they look at
But if you go evaluation, assessed value, our properties are assessed next to nothing. So we could do an assessed value, but also the village would say, we're gonna look 10, 15, 20, whatever the number is for frontage.
Yeah.
If you wanted to have skin in the game.
We'll see. Yeah, yeah, a lot to think about. Okay, any other questions on that? All right, we do have an executive session to transaction on personnel matters. Chief, will you join us first? So, we go into executive session. Make a motion.
Okay. Can we go in executive session?
All in favor, aye.